The Consciousness Millionaires, elevating human potential through wealth mastery. Let me ask you something that will revolutionize your understanding of what wealth is truly meant to accomplish. What if I told you that the most evolved wealth creators in history weren't just building personal fortune or even ecosystem abundance? They were using wealth as a systematic tool for elevating human consciousness and unlocking unlimited potential across entire populations. What if I told you that there's a level of wealth mastery beyond ecosystem architecture where money becomes a consciousness elevation technology, systematically raising human potential, awareness, and capability on a species-wide scale through strategic consciousness investment and development? Tonight, you're going to discover what I call the Consciousness Millionaires methodology, the systematic use of wealth creation and distribution to elevate human consciousness, unlock unlimited potential, and create global transformation through strategic investments in awareness, capability, and consciousness development that benefits all humanity. But first, let me take you inside the moment when one visionary discovered how to transform wealth from personal accumulation into consciousness elevation technology that could systematically unlock human potential: the Harpo Studios Consciousness Elevation Laboratory. It was September 1996, and Oprah Winfrey was standing in her Harpo Studios in Chicago, reviewing audience transformation data that revealed something extraordinary. Her media platform wasn't just entertaining people, it was systematically elevating human consciousness, unlocking potential, and creating measurable improvements in viewers' lives across multiple dimensions. At 42, Oprah had discovered what Napoleon Hill would later identify as consciousness millionaire methodology: the systematic use of wealth and media to elevate human potential on a species-wide scale. While other wealthy individuals accumulated personal fortune or built business empires, Oprah was accessing what Hill called consciousness investment mastery, the understanding that wealth's highest purpose is systematic consciousness elevation, unlocking human potential through strategic investments in awareness, education, and capability development. In that studio, Oprah experienced what she privately called consciousness elevation recognition, the moment when she realized that wealth could be used as technology for systematically raising human consciousness, awareness, and potential across unlimited populations through strategic media, education, and consciousness development investments. From that studio, Oprah wasn't just building a media empire, she was demonstrating consciousness elevation through wealth that would transform millions of lives, proving that money could become systematic technology for unlocking human potential. She had mastered what Hill called the Consciousness Millionaires method, using wealth to elevate human consciousness systematically. The science of consciousness elevation through wealth. Through studying consciousness-focused wealth creators, Hill discovered that systematic human potential elevation operates according to principles that transcend traditional charity or business success. Principle 1. Consciousness investment versus charity distribution. While conventional philanthropy distributes money to address symptoms, consciousness millionaires invest in systematic consciousness elevation that addresses root causes of human limitation. Principle 2. Systematic potential unlocking versus individual success. Rather than focusing on personal wealth accumulation, consciousness millionaires use money to systematically unlock potential across entire populations. Principle 3. Global transformation versus local impact. Instead of creating limited local change, consciousness millionaires design wealth strategies that create measurable global consciousness elevation and human potential advancement. Principle 4. Awareness technology versus material solutions. Consciousness millionaires create wealth-funded awareness technologies that solve problems through consciousness elevation rather than just providing material resources. Principle 5. Species evolution versus individual achievement. Rather than optimizing for personal success, consciousness millionaires use wealth to accelerate human species evolution through systematic consciousness development. The 5 stages of consciousness millionaire development. Hill identified 5 progressive stages that lead to consciousness elevation mastery through wealth. Stage 1. Consciousness wealth integration, aligning money with human potential. Stage 2. Systematic elevation design, creating consciousness investment strategies. Stage 3. Global impact architecture, building worldwide consciousness infrastructure. Stage 4. Potential unlocking mastery, systematically developing human capability. Stage 5. Species evolution leadership, accelerating human consciousness development. Each stage builds toward using wealth as systematic technology for elevating human consciousness and potential globally. Stage 1. Consciousness wealth integration, aligning money with human potential. The first stage involves recognizing that wealth's highest purpose is consciousness elevation and human potential development. Integrating money creation with systematic awareness and capability enhancement. Tony Robbins, the Consciousness Wealth Integration Master. Robbins' evolution from personal development coaching to creating wealth strategies specifically designed for consciousness elevation and human potential unlocking demonstrates perfect consciousness wealth integration. Robbins' consciousness wealth integration system, wealth purpose transformation. Robbins learned to create wealth specifically for consciousness elevation rather than personal accumulation. Human potential investment focus, directing wealth creation towards systematic programs that unlock human capability and awareness. Consciousness development business models, building revenue streams that generate profit through consciousness elevation and human potential advancement. Transformational wealth architecture, creating wealth systems designed to fund systematic consciousness development rather than just accumulating capital. Strategic consciousness investment. Robbins developed systematic approaches for investing wealth in consciousness elevation initiatives. Global potential unlocking programs, creating wealth-funded initiatives that systematically develop human capability across worldwide populations. Consciousness technology development, investing in methodologies, technologies, and systems that accelerate awareness development and potential realization. Systematic impact measurement, building approaches to measure and optimize consciousness elevation return on investment rather than just financial returns. Consciousness business integration. Robbins created business models where financial success and consciousness elevation reinforced each other systematically. Profit through transformation, designing business approaches that generated sustainable profit by creating genuine consciousness elevation and human development. Scalable consciousness technology, building systems that could deliver consciousness elevation to unlimited populations while generating sufficient revenue for expansions. Sustainable transformation economics, creating financial sustainability through consciousness elevation rather than despite it. Your consciousness wealth integration training, wealth purpose assessment. Evaluate your current wealth creation activities for their potential to contribute to consciousness elevation and human potential development. Identify opportunities to align your money-making activities with systematic consciousness advancement and awareness development. Practice integrating consciousness elevation goals into your financial planning and wealth creation strategies. Consciousness investment development. Learn to identify and invest in initiatives, technologies, and programs that systematically unlock human potential and elevate consciousness. Develop approaches for measuring consciousness elevation impact and return on investment rather than just financial metrics. Create wealth generation systems that reinforce and support consciousness development rather than competing with it. Stage 2, systematic elevation design, creating consciousness investment strategies. The second stage involves designing systematic strategies for consciousness elevation through strategic wealth deployment, creating measurable improvements in human awareness, capability, and potential across target populations. Bill and Melinda Gates, the systematic elevation design virtuosos. The Gates Foundation's systematic approach to addressing global challenges through strategic consciousness elevation, education, health, and capability development demonstrates perfect systematic elevation design. Gates Foundation's systematic elevation framework, global consciousness assessment. The Gates Foundation developed comprehensive approaches for identifying consciousness elevation opportunities worldwide. Human potential limitation analysis, systematic identification of factors preventing consciousness development and potential realization across global populations. Consciousness development opportunity mapping, understanding where strategic investments could create maximum consciousness elevation and human capability advancement. Systematic impact measurement, creating methodologies for measuring consciousness elevation, awareness development, and human potential unlocking across different cultures and populations. Strategic consciousness infrastructure. The Gates Foundation built systematic infrastructure for consciousness elevation through strategic wealth deployment. Educational consciousness technology, creating and funding educational approaches specifically designed for consciousness development rather than just information transfer. Health consciousness integration, understanding how physical health improvements create foundations for consciousness elevation and potential unlocking capability development systems. Building systematic approaches that develop human capability, critical thinking, and consciousness awareness simultaneously. Scalable elevation methodologies. The Gates Foundation created consciousness elevation approaches designed for global scale and systematic impact. Systematic program replication, developing consciousness elevation methodologies that could be adapted and implemented across unlimited cultural and geographic contexts. Consciousness technology innovation, investing in development of new technologies and approaches that accelerate consciousness development and human potential realization. Global consciousness collaboration, creating partnerships and networks that multiply consciousness elevation impact through coordinated systematic approaches. Modern systematic elevation examples. Elon Musk, Tesla/SpaceX education initiatives, creating consciousness elevation through inspiring human potential and possibility awareness. Mark Zuckerberg, Chan Zuckerberg initiatives, systematic investment in educational technology designed for consciousness development. Mackenzie Scott, strategic wealth distribution focused on consciousness elevation and human potential development across underserved populations. Your systematic elevation design development. Consciousness impact strategy. Design systematic strategies for using wealth to create measurable consciousness elevation and human potential development. Identify target populations where consciousness development investment could create maximum systematic impact. Create methodologies for measuring and optimizing consciousness elevation return on investment, rather than just charitable giving. Scalable elevation infrastructure. Build or support consciousness development infrastructure that can systematically elevate awareness across large populations. Develop or invest in consciousness technologies that accelerate human potential unlocking and awareness development. Create systematic approaches that integrate consciousness elevation with practical capability development and life improvement. Stage 3, global impact architecture, building worldwide consciousness infrastructure. The third stage involves creating global-scale consciousness elevation infrastructure that can systematically raise human potential and awareness across entire populations worldwide through strategic architecture and systematic implementation. Oprah Winfrey, the global impact architecture master. Oprah's creation of media, educational, and consciousness development infrastructure that systematically elevated awareness and potential across global audience demonstrates perfect global impact architecture. Oprah's global impact architecture strategy, worldwide consciousness platform development. Oprah created systematic platforms for consciousness elevation that could reach and transform unlimited global populations. Media consciousness technology, building television, publishing, and digital platforms specifically designed for systematic consciousness elevation rather than just entertainment educational infrastructure creation. Establishing schools, programs, and institutions focused on consciousness development and human potential, unlocking global awareness network. Building, creating systematic networks that could deliver consciousness elevation content and methodologies across unlimited cultural and linguistic boundaries. Systematic transformation methodology. Oprah developed systematic approaches for consciousness elevation that could work across diverse global populations. Universal consciousness principles. Identifying and teaching consciousness development principles that could elevate awareness across all cultural and educational backgrounds. Systematic life transformation. Creating methodologies that systematically improve multiple life dimensions through consciousness elevation. Emotional awareness, relationship capability, financial understanding, health consciousness, cultural consciousness bridge building. Developing approaches that could elevate consciousness across different cultures while respecting and enhancing cultural wisdom and values. Measurable global impact creation. Oprah achieved systematic consciousness elevation that created measurable improvements across global populations. Consciousness elevation documentation, creating systematic documentation of consciousness development and human potential improvements across global audiences. Systematic life improvement measurement, tracking measurable improvements in education, relationships, financial capability, and life satisfaction through consciousness elevation programming. Global consciousness movement generation, creating consciousness elevation movements that continued expanding and developing independently across worldwide populations. Your global impact architecture training, worldwide consciousness platform creation. Design or support platforms that can systematically deliver consciousness elevation to unlimited global populations. Build infrastructure that can adapt consciousness development methodologies across different cultures and educational levels. Create systematic approaches for consciousness elevation that transcend geographic, cultural, and linguistic boundaries. Systematic global transformation. Develop consciousness elevation methodologies that create measurable improvements across diverse global populations. Build systematic approaches that elevate consciousness while respecting and enhancing existing cultural wisdom and values. Create documentation and measurement systems that track global consciousness elevation and human potential development impact. Stage 4. Potential unlocking mastery, systematically developing human capability. The fourth stage involves mastering systematic approaches for unlocking human potential, developing capability, and elevating consciousness that create permanent improvements in awareness, ability, and life satisfaction across target populations. Richard Branson, the Potential Unlocking Mastery Master. Branson's systematic approach to business creation that consistently elevates human potential through employee development, customer experience innovation, and consciousness-expanding business practices demonstrates perfect potential unlocking mastery. Branson's Potential Unlocking Mastery Framework. Systematic human development integration. Branson created business and wealth approaches that systematically developed human potential as core business strategy. Employee consciousness development, building business cultures specifically designed to elevate employee consciousness, capability, and human potential as fundamental business practice. Customer experience consciousness, creating customer experiences that elevated awareness, expanded possibility thinking, and unlocked potential rather than just delivering products or services. Business consciousness integration, designing business models that generated profit through systematic human development and consciousness elevation, rather than despite it. Capability development acceleration. Branson developed systematic approaches for accelerating human capability development across business and life domains. Multidimensional skill building, creating programs that developed multiple human capabilities simultaneously. Communication, leadership, creative thinking, problem solving, and emotional intelligence. Consciousness capability integration, understanding how consciousness elevation automatically improves capability across all life domains rather than requiring separate skill development. Potential realization acceleration, building systematic approaches that helped individuals identify and develop their highest potential capabilities rather than just improving existing skills. Systematic life satisfaction enhancement. Branson achieved business and wealth creation that systematically improved life satisfaction and consciousness across all participants. Work-life consciousness integration, creating business approaches that enhanced rather than competed with personal life satisfaction and consciousness development. Systematic joy and fulfillment, building business cultures and customer experiences that systematically generated joy, fulfillment, and consciousness expansion. Holistic human development, creating wealth generation that improved all aspects of human experience, relationships, health, creativity, consciousness, and life satisfaction. Modern potential unlocking examples. Reid Hoffman, LinkedIn, created platforms that systematically unlock professional potential and career consciousness development. Sarah Blakely, Spanx, built business focused on systematically unlocking confidence and potential in women through consciousness elevation. Mark Benioff, Salesforce, developed business practices that systematically elevate employee consciousness and human potential as core business strategy. Your potential unlocking mastery development. Systematic human development. Create wealth generation approaches that systematically develop human potential and consciousness as core strategy rather than side benefit. Build systems that elevate capability, awareness, and life satisfaction for all participants rather than just generating profit. Design approaches that integrate consciousness development with practical capability building and life improvement. Acceleration methodology creation. Develop systematic approaches for accelerating human potential, realization, and consciousness development across multiple life domains. Create programs or support initiatives that unlock potential rather than just improving existing capabilities or providing information. Build methodologies that create permanent consciousness elevation and capability enhancement, rather than temporary improvements. Stage 5. Species evolution leadership. Accelerating human consciousness development. The final stage involves leading systematic acceleration of human species consciousness evolution through strategic wealth deployment that elevates awareness, capability, and potential across entire populations and future generations. Andrew Carnegie, the Species Evolution Leadership Master. Carnegie's systematic creation of educational infrastructure, libraries, universities, institutions, designed to permanently elevate human consciousness and capability across unlimited populations, demonstrates ultimate species evolution leadership. Carnegie's Species Evolution Leadership System, permanent consciousness infrastructure. Carnegie created systematic infrastructure designed to elevate human consciousness across unlimited populations and time periods. Global educational consciousness. Building library and educational systems specifically designed for consciousness development and human potential unlocking across all populations. Systematic knowledge access. Creating infrastructure that provided unlimited access to consciousness, expanding knowledge, wisdom, and capability development resources. Cross-generational consciousness transfer. Establishing institutions designed to transfer and develop consciousness across multiple generations rather than just serving current populations. Species-level capability development. Carnegie achieved wealth deployment that systematically elevated human capability and potential at species level. Universal human development, creating educational and consciousness development infrastructure available to all humans regardless of economic status, geographic location, or cultural background. Systematic intelligence enhancement, building approaches that systematically developed human intelligence, critical thinking, and consciousness awareness across entire populations. Consciousness evolution acceleration, creating infrastructure that accelerated human consciousness development beyond natural evolutionary timelines. Multi-generational consciousness legacy. Carnegie established consciousness elevation systems designed to operate and expand across unlimited future generations. Systematic consciousness investment, creating endowment and funding systems that would continue supporting consciousness development and human potential unlocking indefinitely. Self-expanding consciousness infrastructure, building educational and development systems that became more effective and far-reaching over time, rather than degrading or requiring constant maintenance. Species consciousness advancement, achieving consciousness elevation infrastructure that permanently raised the baseline of human awareness, capability, and potential for all future generations. The complete Consciousness Millionaire formula. Based on studying consciousness-focused wealth creators, Hill developed the complete formula for systematic human potential elevation through wealth. Formula Component 1. Consciousness wealth integration mastery, align wealth creation and deployment with systematic consciousness elevation and human potential development goals. Formula Component 2. Systematic elevation design excellence, create strategic approaches for consciousness investment that generate measurable awareness and capability improvements across target populations. Formula Component 3. Global Impact Architecture Achievement build worldwide consciousness elevation infrastructure that can systematically raise human potential across unlimited populations and cultural boundaries. Formula Component 4. Potential unlocking mastery, develop systematic approaches for unlocking human capability and consciousness that create permanent improvements across multiple life dimensions. Formula Component 5. Species evolution leadership leads systematic acceleration of human consciousness development through strategic infrastructure that elevates awareness across entire populations and future generations. The Decade Consciousness Elevation Protocol. Phase 1. Consciousness Foundation Integration, Years 1-3. Wealth Consciousness Alignment. Complete assessment of current wealth creation activities for consciousness elevation and human potential development opportunities. Integration of consciousness development goals into financial planning and wealth. Generation strategies. Development of systematic approaches for measuring consciousness elevation impact alongside financial metrics. Consciousness investment beginning. Initial strategic investments in consciousness elevation initiatives, technologies, and programs that unlock human potential, beginning participation in or support of systematic consciousness development projects and infrastructure. Creation of wealth generation approaches that reinforce consciousness development rather than competing with it. Phase 2. Systematic strategy development, years 4-6. Strategic consciousness design. Development of comprehensive strategies for consciousness elevation through strategic wealth deployment across target populations. Creation of systematic methodologies for measuring consciousness development, awareness improvement, and human potential unlocking. Building strategic partnerships and networks that multiply consciousness elevation impact through coordinated approaches. Infrastructure development. Investment in or creation of consciousness development infrastructure, educational, technological, or awareness-building platforms. Development of systematic approaches that integrate consciousness elevation with practical capability development and life improvement. Building scalable methodologies that can deliver consciousness elevation across diverse populations and cultural contexts. Phase 3, Global Impact Implementation, years 7-8. Worldwide Consciousness Platform. Creation or significant support of platforms that systematically deliver consciousness elevation to unlimited global populations. Development of consciousness elevation approaches that transcend geographic, cultural, and linguistic boundaries while respecting diversity. building systematic documentation and measurement of global consciousness elevation and human potential development impact. Species-level contribution. Strategic investment in consciousness development infrastructure designed to permanently elevate human awareness and capability. Creation of approaches that accelerate human consciousness development beyond natural evolutionary timelines. Building systematic consciousness transfer and development across multiple generations rather than just current populations. Phase 4, Evolution Leadership Achievement, years 9-10 plus. Consciousness evolution infrastructure. Establishment of permanent infrastructure designed to elevate human consciousness across unlimited populations and time periods. Creation of endowment and funding systems that will continue supporting consciousness. Development indefinitely. Building self-expanding consciousness infrastructure that becomes more effective and far-reaching over time. Species consciousness legacy. Achievement of consciousness elevation systems that permanently raise the baseline of human awareness, capability, and potential. Creation of systematic consciousness advancement that operates independently and expands across future generations. Leadership of species-level consciousness development that transcends individual lifetime and creates permanent human advancement. The laws of consciousness wealth creation. Law 1. The law of consciousness investment wealth achieves its highest purpose when systematically invested in consciousness elevation and human potential development. Law 2. The law of systematic transformation strategic consciousness investment creates measurable improvements in awareness, capability, and life satisfaction across entire populations. Law 3. The law of global consciousness infrastructure. Worldwide consciousness elevation requires systematic infrastructure that can deliver awareness development across unlimited cultural and geographic boundaries. Law 4. The law of potential multiplication systematic human potential unlocking creates exponential rather than linear improvements in capability and consciousness. Law 5. The law of species evolution acceleration strategic consciousness infrastructure can accelerate human species evolution beyond natural timelines through systematic awareness development. Your consciousness millionaire revolution. And now we come to the ultimate purpose of wealth mastery. You've discovered not just how to create abundance ecosystems or architect realities, but how to become a consciousness millionaire who uses wealth as systematic technology for elevating human potential and accelerating species consciousness evolution. This isn't about accumulating money for personal benefit or even building sustainable business systems. This is about recognizing wealth's ultimate purpose. Systematic consciousness elevation that unlocks human potential, raises awareness, and accelerates species evolution through strategic investment in consciousness development. Most people will hear about conscious wealth and think about ethical investing or charitable giving. Some will try to integrate consciousness with business while still focusing primarily on profit. A few will achieve true consciousness millionaire mastery and discover that wealth's highest expression is systematic human consciousness elevation and potential unlocking. Which group will you join? Remember, Robin's integrated wealth creation with consciousness elevation to unlock potential systematically. Gates built global consciousness infrastructure that addresses root causes through awareness development. Oprah created media consciousness technology that elevated awareness across worldwide populations. Branson achieved business models that generated profit through systematic human development. Carnegie established permanent consciousness infrastructure that continues elevating human potential across generations. You have access to the same consciousness elevation principles. You have the same potential for systematic human development through wealth. You have the same opportunity to accelerate species consciousness evolution. The consciousness investment activation. This is your moment of evolution choice. Not to accumulate wealth for personal benefit, but to become a consciousness millionaire who systematically elevates human potential. Not to build business success, but to accelerate species consciousness development. The consciousness millionaire revolution isn't coming, it's you using wealth as systematic technology for consciousness elevation and human potential unlocking across unlimited populations. Like this video if you're ready to become a consciousness millionaire who systematically elevates human potential through strategic wealth deployment. Subscribe to this channel if you want continued training in consciousness elevation mastery. Comment below and declare, I create conscious wealth. I elevate human potential. I accelerate species consciousness evolution. Share this message with someone ready to transcend personal wealth accumulation and systematically elevate consciousness. When you share consciousness elevation principles, you accelerate human potential for everyone. Remember, Every moment you accumulate wealth without consciousness elevation purpose is a moment you delay species development. Every moment you deploy wealth for consciousness advancement is a moment you accelerate human evolution. The consciousness elevation opportunities are waiting for investment. The human potential is ready to be unlocked. The species evolution is ready to be accelerated. Elevate the consciousness, unlock the potential, accelerate the evolution. Your consciousness millionaire revolution begins with your next consciousness investment decision.